Testing comes to an end with Ferrari making a big statement. Aston gets good running after issues on day 4. And all the latest news from testing. What just happened in Barcelona might be the biggest story of 2026 so far. Lewis Hamilton just dropped the fastest lap time of the entire preseason test, and he did it wearing Ferrari red. If that doesn't give you goosebumps, you're probably not breathing. I'm talking about a moment that could define this entire championship fight before it even begins. 5 days of testing in Barcelona just wrapped up, and the final session delivered pure drama. Hamilton didn't just go fast, he absolutely demolished the previous benchmark, sending a message that echoes from Maranello all the way to Milton Keynes. Let me paint you the picture of what went down on that final Friday afternoon. The Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya was buzzing with activity as teams prepared for their last chance to gather data before the season kicks off. Multiple driver swaps were happening across the paddock. Hamilton was taking over from Charles Leclerc at Ferrari. Lando Norris jumped into the McLaren from Oscar Piastri. Even Nico Hülkenberg got his turn in the Audi after Gabriel Bortoleto handled morning duties. But here's where it gets interesting. With about 90 minutes left on the clock, Norris set what looked like a statement lap. The reigning world champion posted a 1-minute 16.594, which was blindingly quick and put him just 0.149 seconds off George Russell's Thursday benchmark that had been sitting pretty at the top of the timing sheets. McLaren looked strong, really strong. Norris then switched to longer runs, seemingly satisfied with his single-lap pace. Other teams started paying attention. You could sense the energy shifting in the paddock. Teams began preparing their cars for qualifying simulations with soft compounds. Then came the final 15 minutes. This is when testing often transforms from data gathering into pure competition. Multiple teams rolled out fresh rubber, and the gloves came off. Hamilton had been building up to this moment all day, learning the Ferrari, understanding its characteristics, finding the sweet spots. When that final sector timing flashed green, everyone knew something special was happening. Hamilton crossed the line with a 1-minute 16.348, nearly a tenth faster than Russell's previous best. But here's the crazy part. That lap was only 0.605 seconds slower than the fastest lap from last year's actual Spanish Grand Prix. We're talking about testing pace that's approaching race weekend performance levels. This wasn't just about one quick lap, though. The implications run much deeper. Hamilton's move to Ferrari has been the storyline everyone's been watching, but there were still questions. How quickly would he adapt? Would the chemistry work? Could Ferrari provide him with a championship-capable car? Well, today provided some answers. Hamilton completed 63 laps during his session, showing both speed and consistency. That's significant mileage for a driver still learning his new machine. The fact that he could extract that kind of performance while also banking valuable track time suggests the adaptation process is going smoother than many expected. Meanwhile, the championship landscape is taking shape in fascinating ways. Max Verstappen was back on track after Red Bull missed several days following an incident earlier in the week. The 4-time champion logged an impressive 118 laps, more than any other driver on Friday. That's the kind of mileage that wins championships. But his 5th-place finish on the timesheets suggests Red Bull might be prioritizing setup work over headline lap times. McLaren's showing was equally compelling. Both Norris and Piastri looked comfortable in the new MCL 40, with Norris grabbing 2nd place and Piastri 4th. The consistency between their times suggests the car has a broad setup window, which could be crucial during the season when teams need to adapt quickly to different circuits. The technical side of this story is equally fascinating. Teams are dealing with completely new aerodynamic regulations for 2026, and the evidence suggests some have adapted better than others. Aston Martin's Adrian Newey designed AMR26 made its debut with Fernando Alonso behind the wheel. While Alonso finished 11th, the mere presence of a Newey car on track has everyone talking about potential game changers. Here's what makes Hamilton's performance even more significant. Ferrari has been chasing Mercedes's pace advantage for the past several seasons. Team principal Fred Vasseur has been open about this challenge. But today's session suggests that gap might be closing, or perhaps even reversing. When your new driver immediately becomes the fastest man on track, it sends shockwaves through the entire paddock. The psychological impact cannot be understated. Hamilton didn't just beat Russell's time, he beat his former teammate's benchmark. That's the kind of statement that resonates throughout the grid. Teams that were feeling confident about their 2026 prospects suddenly have new questions to answer. Pierre Gasly managed to complete an impressive 160 laps for Alpine, finishing 6th on the timesheets. That's the kind of reliability work that often goes unnoticed, but proves crucial when the championship fight intensifies. Meanwhile, both Mercedes and Racing Bulls sat out Friday's session, having already completed their maximum 3 days of testing. The restricted testing format adds another layer of intrigue. Teams only get 3 days out of 5 to run their cars, which means every session becomes precious. Hamilton's ability to immediately find speed in his limited Ferrari running time suggests a level of adaptability that could prove decisive when the season begins. Looking at the broader picture, this test session revealed several emerging storylines. Cadillac's Valtteri Bottas managed 54 laps in 12th place, giving the new American team valuable data as they prepare for their grid debut. Haas showed solid pace with both Esteban Ocon and Oliver Behrman logging significant mileage. The timing of Hamilton's breakthrough shouldn't be overlooked either. Final day, final session, final moments. It's almost poetic. This is exactly the kind of statement that builds momentum heading into a new season. Ferrari hasn't won a championship since 2008, but suddenly they have the sport's most successful driver setting the pace in their latest creation. What happens next will be fascinating to watch. Testing times don't always translate to race pace. And we've seen plenty of teams look strong in Barcelona, only to struggle when the points start counting. But Hamilton's performance today suggests Ferrari means business in 2026. The stage is set for what could be an epic championship battle. Hamilton and Ferrari have fired the opening shot, but Norris and McLaren responded immediately. Red Bull has the experience and Verstappen's brilliance. Mercedes will want to prove they're still the team to beat. And with new regulations creating opportunities for breakthrough performances, this season could be unlike anything we've seen. Barcelona has spoken. The 2026 Formula One season officially begins now. What's up, Formula One fanatics? The moment we've all been waiting for has finally arrived. After months of speculation, delays, and anticipation, Adrian Newey's first Aston Martin has hit the track. And trust me, the suspension choice he made is absolutely fascinating. But before we dive into the technical masterpiece that is the AMR26, let me blow your mind with something that happened during testing that nobody saw coming. Picture this. Lance Stroll is out there in the final hour of Thursday's session in Barcelona, pushing Newey's creation to its limits, when suddenly the marshals start frantically waving at him to stop. Red flags fly, session ends early, and everyone's thinking the same thing. Has Newey's masterpiece already run into trouble? Well, stick around because what actually happened and the technical decisions behind this car are going to change everything you thought you knew about Formula One engineering. I'm about to take you inside the mind of arguably the greatest aerodynamicist in motorsport history and reveal the suspension choice that could define Aston Martin's championship ambitions. We're talking about a decision that Adrian Newey himself reportedly agonized over right up until the last possible moment. And when you understand the engineering brilliance behind his choice, you'll see why this could be the game changer that propels Aston Martin from midfield mediocrity to championship contention. Let's start with the elephant in the room. The AMR26 made its debut much later than expected. While other teams had been logging valuable testing miles throughout the week, Aston Martin fans were left wondering where their car was. The team missed the start of the Barcelona shakedown entirely, which immediately raised eyebrows across the paddock. Was this a sign of trouble brewing behind the scenes? Or was Newey simply being his perfectionist self, refusing to let the car hit the track until every detail met his exacting standards? When the AMR26 finally rolled out of the garage on Thursday afternoon, it was immediately clear that this wasn't just another evolution of existing concepts. This was pure Newey innovation from nose to tail. The car appeared in striking all-black testing livery, creating an almost ominous presence as it prepared to make its first tentative steps around the Barcelona circuit. But underneath that sleek exterior lay engineering decisions that would prove crucial to Aston Martin's competitive prospects. The big reveal came when technical experts got their first proper look at the car's suspension setup. After weeks of rumors suggesting that Newey had been torn between different approaches, the verdict was finally in: double pushrod suspension, front and rear. Now, if you're thinking this sounds like technical jargon that doesn't really matter, let me explain why this decision could be worth several tenths of a lap time and potentially the difference between fighting for podiums or scrapping in the midfield. Suspension choice in modern Formula One isn't just about mechanical grip and handling characteristics, though those are certainly important. It's fundamentally about aerodynamics and how the suspension components interact with the complex airflow patterns around the car. When Newey chose pushrod over pull-rod suspension, he was making a statement about his entire aerodynamic philosophy for the AMR 26. The switch away from the ground effect regulations we've become accustomed to, combined with the smaller diffusers mandated for the new era, has fundamentally altered the suspension game. Teams are no longer trying to seal the floor and generate massive amounts of downforce from underneath the car. Instead, they're focusing on more traditional aerodynamic approaches. And this is where pushrod suspension offers distinct advantages. A pushrod setup provides more predictable handling characteristics compared to its pull-rod alternative. In the high-stakes world of Formula One, predictability translates directly to driver confidence, which translates to faster lap times. When a driver can trust exactly how the car will behave through every corner, they can push closer to the absolute limit without fear of sudden, unexpected handling changes. But the benefits extend far beyond just handling predictability. Pushrod suspension also offers significant advantages in terms of packaging, particularly around the power unit. This aligns perfectly with Newey's design philosophy, which has always emphasized elegant solutions that maximize multiple performance parameters simultaneously. By choosing pushrod suspension, Newey likely gained crucial packaging space that could be used for aerodynamic optimization or cooling improvements. The numbers tell a compelling story about industry trends. When the AMR 26 joined the growing list of cars using double pushrod suspension, it became part of an overwhelming majority. Only Alpine and the new Cadillac team have opted for pull-rod suspension so far, with Williams yet to reveal their hand. This isn't coincidence or follow-the-leader mentality. When the vast majority of the grid's best engineers arrive at the same conclusion independently, it suggests there are fundamental performance advantages at play. What makes Newey's decision particularly interesting is the reported internal debate that preceded it. Sources suggested that the legendary designer had been wrestling with the suspension choice right up until the final moment, leaving the decision as late as possible before committing to the pushrod route. This isn't typical Newey behavior. Throughout his career, he's been known for decisive, confident technical choices. The fact that this decision required such careful consideration suggests the performance margins between different approaches are incredibly tight. McLaren's technical director Mark Temple provided crucial insight into the complexity of this decision when he explained that suspension choice is fundamentally driven by aerodynamic considerations. The way the front suspension components interact with the new front wing designs determines which approach offers the best overall performance package. Since all teams are working with completely new front wing regulations, everyone had to essentially start from scratch in determining the optimal suspension layout. This aerodynamic first approach to suspension design represents a fascinating shift from traditional motorsport thinking. Historically, suspension was primarily about mechanical grip, weight distribution, and handling balance. Today, it's become another tool in the aerodynamicist's toolkit, with mechanical considerations taking a backseat to airflow management and overall aerodynamic efficiency. The technical complexity doesn't end with the suspension choice itself. The way pushrod suspension integrates with other aerodynamic elements creates a cascade of design decisions throughout the entire car. The nose design, side pod shaping, floor configuration, and even rear wing setup all need to work in harmony with the suspension choice to maximize overall performance. When Lance Stroll finally got behind the wheel for that inaugural run, he was piloting more than just a new race car. He was testing the culmination of months of careful engineering decisions, and computer simulations, and wind tunnel testing. The fact that the session ended with a precautionary red flag shouldn't be seen as a negative. In Formula One testing, teams push boundaries and occasionally discover issues that need addressing. It's far better to find and fix problems during testing than during a race weekend. The electrical issue that caused the premature end to Stroll's session highlights another crucial aspect of modern Formula One car design. These machines are incredibly complex technological platforms where mechanical, aerodynamic, and electronic systems must all work in perfect harmony. A suspension choice impacts not just handling and aerodynamics, but also affects packaging for electrical components, cooling systems, and countless other elements. Looking at Newey's track record with suspension design adds another layer of intrigue to this story. His work on Red Bull's ground effect era cars, particularly the championship-winning designs of recent years, featured innovative anti-dive and anti-squat suspension systems that became crucial competitive advantages. The RB19 suspension setup contributed significantly to that car's dominance, winning all but one race during its incredible campaign. This history suggests that Newey's suspension choices are never arbitrary. Every component serves multiple purposes, and the AMR26's pushrod setup likely provides benefits that extend far beyond the obvious mechanical and aerodynamic advantages. Knowing Newey, there are probably secondary and tertiary performance gains built into this choice that won't become apparent until the car begins racing in anger. The timing of the AMR26's debut, despite being later than originally planned, actually provides some strategic advantages. By running after most of their competitors, Aston Martin had the opportunity to observe other teams' approaches and potentially validate their own design choices. Seeing the majority of the grid converge on similar suspension solutions would have provided confidence that they were on the right track. As we look ahead to the official car launch and the beginning of the competitive season, the AMR26's suspension choice represents just one piece of what promises to be a fascinating technical puzzle. And Newey's reputation for innovative solutions that others overlook suggests there are likely additional surprises hidden within the car's design that won't become apparent until teams begin pushing for ultimate performance. The broader implications for Aston Martin's championship ambitions cannot be overstated. With Fernando Alonso behind the wheel and Adrian Newey's technical expertise finally at their disposal, the team has assembled the ingredients necessary for sustained success. The suspension choice, while seemingly a small detail, could prove to be one of the foundational elements that enables the team to take that crucial next step forward. What happens next will ultimately determine whether Newey's suspension gamble pays off. Formula One is unforgiving to teams that make the wrong technical choices, but it rewards those who get the fundamentals right with championship glory. Based on everything we know about Adrian Newey's track record and the careful consideration that went into this decision, Aston Martin fans have every reason to be optimistic about what lies ahead. What if I told you that just 2 months ago, one driver completely changed the landscape of Formula One forever? Today, we're diving into the incredible story of how Lando Norris went from chasing the championship to finally claiming it, and what it really feels like to carry the most prestigious number in motorsport. Picture this. You're sitting in your garage, and everywhere you look, you see the number 1. On your suit, on your car, on the timing screens. For most drivers, this remains nothing but a dream. But for Lando Norris, this became reality in the most surreal way possible. The journey to this moment has been absolutely extraordinary. After years of coming close, after countless podiums and race wins, Norris finally achieved what every racing driver dreams of since childhood. That Abu Dhabi podium didn't just secure him a trophy, it transformed his entire identity in the sport. But here's what's fascinating about champions. They don't just win once and disappear. The real test begins when you have to defend that crown. And that's exactly where our story picks up today. Because defending a championship is an entirely different beast than winning your first one. When the new McLaren MCL40 rolled out of the garage in Barcelona, something was different. The atmosphere, the energy, everything had shifted. This wasn't just another pre-season test. This was the beginning of a title defense campaign. Think about the psychology behind this transformation. For years, Max Verstappen had monopolized the number one since his championship victories. That number had become synonymous with Red Bull dominance, with a specific era of Formula One. Now, suddenly it belongs to McLaren, to Norris, to a completely different chapter of the sport. The emotional impact cannot be understated. Norris himself described seeing that number on the timing screens as unbelievable, as something that still doesn't feel real. And honestly, who could blame him? This is a driver who spent years fighting for race wins, who had to watch others claim championship glory while he waited for his moment. What strikes me most about this whole situation is how Norris approaches the responsibility that comes with being champion. There's this incredible balance between acknowledging the significance of the moment while maintaining the work ethic that got him there in the first place. The pressure dynamics are absolutely fascinating. On one hand, you have the weight of expectation, the target on your back that comes with being the defending champion. Every other driver on the grid is gunning for you specifically. Every race weekend, you're the benchmark everyone else is measured against. But there's also this incredible confidence boost that comes with knowing you've already achieved the ultimate goal. Norris talks about how winning the championship gives him good confidence going into the new season. There's something powerful about knowing you have what it takes to win at the highest level. The technical challenges facing Formula One in the current era add another layer of complexity to this story. The sport is constantly evolving, with new regulations and technological developments that can completely shake up the competitive order. What worked for Norris and McLaren last season might not guarantee success this year. This creates this incredible tension where past success provides confidence, but it doesn't guarantee future results. Every team is working tirelessly to find that extra tenth of a second, that innovative solution that could propel them to the front of the grid. What's really interesting is how this championship affects the entire McLaren organization. It's not just about Norris carrying the number one. It's about the entire team embracing their new status as the benchmark. The mechanics, the engineers, everyone associated with the team now carries this different energy, this pride that comes with being champions. The Barcelona testing session revealed so much about how Norris is handling this transition. Completing 77 laps on the first day shows the confidence and work ethic that championship teams possess. There's no time for celebration or complacency, just immediate focus on the next challenge. But perhaps the most revealing aspect of this whole story is how Norris acknowledges that fundamentally, nothing has changed. Yes, he has the number one, yes, he's the champion, but the work remains the same. The dedication, the preparation, the relentless pursuit of perfection that defines elite motorsport continues unchanged. This mindset separation between external recognition and internal process is what separates true champions from one-time winners. The number one brings prestige, but it doesn't make the car faster or the races easier. If anything, it makes every weekend more challenging because everyone is trying to knock you off the top. The psychological warfare aspect of championship defense is absolutely brutal. Every competitor on the grid knows that beating the defending champion carries extra significance. It's not just about winning a race. It's about proving you can topple the best driver in the world. For Norris, this creates this constant balancing act between confidence and paranoia, between celebrating achievement and preparing for the next battle. The moment you start believing your own hype is the moment someone else takes your crown. Looking ahead, the season promises to be absolutely incredible. We have a defending champion who's hungry to prove his first title wasn't a fluke, combined with a grid full of incredibly talented drivers who are desperate to claim that number one for themselves. The beauty of Formula One lies in this constant cycle of triumph and challenge. Yesterday's champion becomes today's target, and tomorrow's uncertainty keeps everyone honest. Norris may carry the number one today, but maintaining it requires proving himself worthy all over again, race after race, weekend after weekend. What makes this story so compelling is how it represents the ultimate dream fulfillment while simultaneously marking the beginning of an entirely new challenge. Norris has achieved what he's worked his entire career toward, but now he must prove he can do it again. What happens when a three-time Grand Prix winner joins a struggling Formula One team only to watch them miss the most important test of the season? Today, we're diving into Carlos Sainz's shocking reaction when Williams failed to show up in Barcelona, and what this reveals about the Spanish driver's character that nobody saw coming. Picture this scenario. You've just left Ferrari, one of Formula One's most prestigious teams, to join Williams, a team that's been fighting at the back of the grid for years. You've put your entire future on the line, betting everything on their potential with the massive rule changes coming in 2026. Then, just as the new season approaches and every team is testing their revolutionary new cars, your team calls to say they won't make it to the track. What would your first reaction be? Most drivers would probably explode with frustration. They might question their decision, demand answers, or even consider their options. But Carlos Sainz? His response completely defied expectations and revealed something extraordinary about his mindset that's making headlines across the paddock. When Williams team principal James Vowles had to deliver the devastating news that they would miss the entire Barcelona shakedown, he braced himself for Sainz's reaction. These 5 days of testing weren't just any ordinary session. This was the first chance for teams to run their completely redesigned cars under the biggest regulatory overhaul in Formula One history. Missing it meant losing crucial development time, data collection, and the opportunity to identify potential issues before the official preseason testing. But here's what happened that stunned everyone. The moment Vowles explained the situation to Sainz, the Spanish driver's immediate response wasn't anger, frustration, or disappointment. Instead, his very first question was simple yet profound. What can I do to help? This reaction speaks volumes about Sainz's character and approach to challenges. Rather than pointing fingers or expressing frustration about a situation completely outside his control, he immediately shifted into problem-solving mode. He positioned himself as part of the solution, not someone standing on the sidelines waiting for others to fix things. Vowles himself was clearly moved by this response. In his own words, Sainz showed unwavering support from the very first moment, emphasizing that he was there with the team through thick and thin. This wasn't just professional courtesy or media-friendly messaging. This was genuine commitment to a project that had already hit its first major obstacle. To understand why this reaction is so significant, we need to consider what Sainz gave up to join Williams. He was essentially pushed out of Ferrari to make room for Lewis Hamilton, leaving behind a team capable of winning races for one that hasn't scored a podium finish in years. The entire gamble was based on Williams' potential for the future, particularly with the incoming Mercedes power unit and the opportunities presented by the 2026 regulation changes. Missing Barcelona means Williams was the only team not participating in this crucial testing phase. While competitors like Mercedes, Ferrari, McLaren, and Red Bull were accumulating valuable track time and data, now Williams was left watching from the sidelines. For a team already playing catch-up, this delay represented a potentially significant setback in their development program. The technical challenges behind Williams' absence reveal the deeper issues the team faces. According to Vowles, the delay wasn't caused by one single problem, but rather thousands of small details that accumulated into a significant issue. Their production systems and processes, while improved from previous years, still aren't operating at the efficiency levels required to compete with the sport's leading teams. This efficiency gap might seem minor, but in Formula One, even small percentage differences can have massive implications. When you're dealing with incredibly tight tolerances and complex manufacturing processes, your 1 or 2% efficiency loss can cascade into major delays. Williams is essentially caught in a cycle where their systems aren't quite sophisticated enough to maintain the pace required, causing them to fall further behind. However, Vowles emphasized that progress is being made. The team has undergone significant changes over the past 2 years, bringing in personnel who understand what excellence looks like in Formula One. These new team members are actively pushing for the investments and upgrades needed to modernize Williams' capabilities. The investment strategy Williams is pursuing represents a long-term vision rather than quick fixes. They're focusing on upgrading fundamental systems and tools that will provide lasting improvements to their operational efficiency. This approach aligns perfectly with Sainz's decision to join the team, as both parties are looking beyond immediate results toward future potential. What makes Sainz's supportive reaction even more impressive is the context of his teammates' response. Alex Albon took to social media to explain that missing tests is what happens when teams push their limits, essentially framing the delay as a sign of ambition rather than failure. While Albon's perspective shows good team spirit, Sainz's immediate offer to help demonstrates a more proactive approach to adversity. The contrast between how different drivers might handle this situation highlights Sainz's maturity and leadership qualities. Many drivers in his position might have questioned their decision to join Williams or expressed concern about the team's capabilities. Instead, Sainz reinforced his commitment and offered his support during a challenging moment. This response also reveals Sainz's understanding of Formula One's collaborative nature. While drivers are often seen as individual performers, success in this sport requires seamless integration between all team elements. By offering to help rather than simply waiting for solutions, Sainz demonstrated his grasp of this reality and his willingness to be part of the team's journey rather than just its beneficiary. The timing of this setback makes Sainz's reaction even more noteworthy. Williams will now make their debut at the official Bahrain test in February, giving them less time to identify and resolve issues before the season begins. Every day of delay reduces their preparation time and potentially impacts their competitiveness when racing resumes. Despite these challenges, Sainz's faith in Williams' future remains unshaken. His decision to join the team was largely based on their prospects for 2026, when they'll switch to Mercedes power units and benefit from the regulatory reset. The current setback, while frustrating, doesn't fundamentally change those long-term opportunities. Looking ahead, Williams faces the challenge of maximizing their limited testing time in Bahrain, while simultaneously addressing the production issues that caused the Barcelona delay. The team's ability to learn from this experience and implement improvements will be crucial for their development trajectory. Sainz's supportive reaction during this difficult moment suggests he's prepared for the journey ahead, understanding that building a competitive team requires patience, commitment, and collective effort. His response transforms a potentially damaging situation into a demonstration of the partnership's strength and shared vision. For Formula One fans, this story offers insight into the personalities and character traits that separate good drivers from great ones. Sainz's immediate pivot to offering help rather than expressing frustration shows the mindset required to succeed at the highest levels of motorsport. As Williams prepares for their delayed debut in Bahrain, they'll do so knowing their star driver is fully committed to the project, ready to contribute however possible to their success. Sometimes the most revealing moments come not during victories, but during setbacks. And Sainz's reaction to missing Barcelona has certainly revealed something special about his approach to challenges and teamwork in Formula One. Picture this: Adrian Newey, the man who's designed more championship-winning Formula One cars than anyone else in history, finally gets his hands on the Aston Martin project. After months of speculation, rumors, and endless headlines about his dramatic switch from Red Bull, the moment of truth has arrived. The AMR 26 has hit the track for the very first time, and Fernando Alonso just stepped out of the cockpit with some brutally honest words that every Formula One fan needs to hear. What you're about to discover in this video will completely change how you understand the current state of Aston Martin's championship ambitions. And frankly, it might shock you just how much work this legendary team still has ahead of them. We're going deep into the Barcelona shakedown results, the real story behind those lap times everyone's talking about, and what this means for the upcoming season that starts in just 5 weeks. The Barcelona Circuit de Catalunya has witnessed some of the most important moments in Formula One history. But this week felt different. Teams have been pushing their 2026 regulation cars to the limit, trying to understand completely new aerodynamic packages. power unit configurations, and safety systems that represent the biggest technical overhaul the sport has seen in years. When Aston Martin finally rolled their AMR 26 out of the garage on Thursday evening, the paddock went silent. This wasn't just another car reveal. This was the first glimpse of what happens when you combine Lawrence Stroll's unlimited financial resources with Adrian Newey's unparalleled technical genius and Fernando Alonso's championship-caliber driving experience. Lance Stroll took the wheel first, completing 5 cautious installation laps in the final hour of Thursday's session. The team was clearly being methodical, conservative, and strategic about their approach. They weren't rushing anything, which honestly tells you everything about how important they believe this moment is for their future. But Friday morning brought the main event. Fernando Alonso, the 2-time world champion who's driven for Ferrari, McLaren, and witnessed the rise and fall of multiple Formula One dynasties, finally got his chance to experience what Adrian Newey had been crafting in secret for the past several months. The results? Well, they're complicated. And that's exactly why Alonso's post-session comments have sent shockwaves through the Formula One community. Over 49 laps, Alonso managed to set a fastest time of 1 minute, 20.795 seconds. To put that in perspective, he was more than 4.5 seconds slower than Lewis Hamilton's pace-setting Ferrari lap. Only Valtteri Bottas in the new Cadillac was slower during that final day of testing. Now, before you start panicking or celebrating depending on which team you support, we need to understand what these numbers actually mean in the context of preseason testing. Testing times in Formula One are notoriously misleading. Teams run different fuel loads, experiment with various aerodynamic configurations, focus on different aspects of car development, and rarely show their true pace during these early sessions. What matters more than raw lap times is reliability, data collection, and understanding how the car behaves across different conditions. But here's where Fernando Alonso's comments become absolutely crucial. This is a driver who's experienced every type of Formula One car you can imagine. He's driven championship winners, midfield contenders, and unfortunately, some pretty terrible machinery during his career. When someone with his experience speaks about a new car, you listen carefully to every word. His statement was diplomatic but revealing. It's always a special moment driving a new car for the first time, especially at the start of a new regulation cycle. Over the years, I've experienced many changes in Formula One, and you quickly get a sense of the direction the car is taking. That phrase, "you quickly get a sense of the direction the car is taking," is loaded with meaning. Experienced Formula One drivers can feel within just a few laps whether a car has fundamental balance issues, aerodynamic problems, or mechanical concerns that will require significant development time to resolve. Alonso continued, "We completed a solid program with strong mileage, which is the main priority at this stage. It's still very early days, and we have a lot of work still to do before we head to Melbourne in March." The key phrase here is "a lot of work still to do." This isn't the usual preseason diplomatic language about fine-tuning and optimization. This sounds like someone who's identified serious areas where the AMR 26 needs improvement before it can compete at the front of the grid. What makes this particularly interesting is the Adrian Newey factor. When Red Bull announced his departure, the entire Formula One world assumed that whoever landed his signature would immediately leap forward in performance. Newey's track record is simply unprecedented. He's been the chief designer behind cars that won championships with Williams, McLaren, and Red Bull across 3 different decades. But designing a Formula One car isn't magic, even for someone as talented as Newey. The 2026 regulations represent a complete reset for aerodynamic philosophy, power unit integration, and safety requirements. Every team is essentially starting from scratch, trying to understand how these new rules interact with each other. The fact that Aston Martin was late to begin their testing program also raises questions. While Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren, and Red Bull had been running for several days, Aston Martin only hit the track on the penultimate day of this crucial testing session. That's precious time and data that they simply cannot recover. Weather conditions during testing were reasonably stable, track temperatures remained consistent, and other teams were able to complete hundreds of laps with their new machinery. Aston Martin's limited running puts them at an immediate disadvantage in terms of understanding their car's behavior, identifying development priorities, and preparing for the season opener. The technical partnership between Alonso and Newey could prove to be one of the most fascinating dynamics in modern Formula One. Alonso brings decades of experience across multiple teams, regulation changes, and championship battles. His feedback is considered among the most detailed and accurate in the paddock. Newey, meanwhile, approaches car design from a unique perspective that combines old-school intuition with cutting-edge computational analysis. His ability to visualize airflow patterns and predict how aerodynamic changes will affect overall car balance has produced some of the most innovative designs in Formula One history. However, the 2026 regulations present challenges that go beyond traditional aerodynamic optimization. The new power unit specifications require completely different packaging solutions. Safety requirements have altered chassis design parameters. Active aerodynamic elements introduce complexity that even Newey hasn't had to manage at this level before. The timeline pressure cannot be understated. Melbourne is exactly 5 weeks away, and Formula One teams typically need months or even full seasons to fully understand and optimize new car concepts. Aston Martin essentially has to compress what should be a gradual development process into an impossibly short time frame. Looking at the competitive landscape, Ferrari appeared strongest during Barcelona testing, with Lewis Hamilton setting consistently quick times across multiple days. Mercedes showed typical preseason form, neither dominating nor struggling significantly. McLaren's MCL40 revealed some intriguing aerodynamic concepts that suggest they're taking bold approaches to the new regulations. Red Bull, despite losing Newey, demonstrated that their remaining technical team is still capable of producing competitive machinery. Their testing program appeared smooth and methodical, suggesting they've managed the transition period better than many expected. For Aston Martin, the challenge is enormous but not insurmountable. They have virtually unlimited financial resources, a driver lineup that combines experience with raw speed, and now the most successful Formula One designer in history leading their technical program. The question is whether 5 weeks provides enough time to address whatever fundamental issues Alonso identified during his Barcelona running. Formula One development is typically measured in months, not weeks, and rushing solutions often creates new problems rather than solving existing ones. What happens in Melbourne will likely set the tone for Aston Martin's entire 2026 campaign. If they arrive with a car that's genuinely competitive, it validates their long-term strategy and suggests big things for the remainder of the season. If they're struggling to score points, it confirms that even the best people and resources cannot overcome the fundamental challenge of Formula One car development timelines. Fernando Alonso's honest assessment after his first AMR 26 experience tells us everything we need to know about where this team stands right now. They have work to do, time is running short, and the expectations could not be higher. The next few weeks will determine whether the Adrian Newey era at Aston Martin begins with championship contention or championship disappointment.